try to decide what to do for lessons for today. So one of the things that I've noticed over time is people tend to spend a lot of time getting anxious over things they just can't control. Like for instance, I'll get a lot of notes, because I wrote books on growing up, I get a lot of notes from teenagers worried about how tall they're going to be as an adult. Well, you really have no control over that. In fact, take a look at Matthew chapter 6. Matthew chapter 6 and verse 27. If somebody would read that.
And who of you, by being worried, can add a single hour to his life?
Yeah. Can't add a single hour. Now, some of your translations will also say you can't add a single cubit to your stature, depending on your which text they based it on. You can't change things about your life, in at least that part of it. You have also, older people. Is that another gray hair? You can't really, you can color it, but you can't control whether gray hairs come or not. In Matthew chapter 5, in verse 36.
Or shall you make an oath by your head, for you cannot make one hair white or black.
Yeah, you can't, you can color it, but you can't change its actual basic color. And even the things that we do have control over, our talents and our skills, even there, that's not fully in our control. Take a look at Ecclesiastes chapter 9. In fact, you want to mark that because we're going to be working our way through Ecclesiastes 9. And look at verse 11.
I returned and saw under the sun that the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, neither yet bread to the wise, nor yet riches to men of understanding, nor yet favor to men of skill, but time and chance happens to them all.
There are one of the things that from my childhood that vividly I remember, they were talking about one of the Olympics, some lady was the shoo-in. She was by far the fastest. She was going to win the race. And she was running the race, and she tripped over a stone or something that got onto the track. Wrecked her knee. Literally, she crawled across the finish line. She had the best skills. But time and chance overtook her. Just because you're the best at something doesn't mean everything else is going to work out well, because we are dependent on other things around us. Okay? And you never know, for instance, like when you're going to get caught up in some disaster. In fact, read verse 12, Ecclesiastes 9.
Moreover, man does not know his time, like fish caught in a treacherous net and birds trapped in a snare. So the the sons of men are ensnared at an evil time when it suddenly falls on them.
Do any of us get to control when the next war breaks out? And yes, sometimes we get caught. Things happen, you're in the wrong place, wrong time, and you're caught up in things that you would rather not be caught up in, because those things are out of your control. And you can make plans, but ultimately we have to realize our limitations. In fact, take a look at James chapter 4, James 4 verses 13 to 15.
Come now, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go to such a city and spend a year there and engage in business and make a profit. If you do not know what your life will be like tomorrow, you are just a vapor that appears for a little while and then vanishes away. Instead, you ought to say, If the Lord wills, we will live and also do this or that.
Okay. So you can't control things, but and in your plans, you got to make basically an understanding is saying, well, the Lord wills. I have limited control. I'm planning to be back in La Vista tonight. That's barring traffic accidents, car breaking down, flat tire. It's if the Lord wills, I'll be back there. And that's the way our attitude has to be about the things, because we're not in full control of everything. And rather there's an old Yiddish proverb that basically says, you can't control the wind, but you can adjust your sails. Okay, and that's what we have to understand. I can't control everything else around me, but I can adjust how I respond to those things. And so we got to look at what I can control. For instance, let's go back to Ecclesiastes 9 and verse 7.
Go your way, eat your bread with joy and drink your wine with a merry heart, because God has already accepted your works.
Okay. Now imagine taking a vacation where you're rushing in, rushing out, because you want to see everything. Okay? And you see a lot, but you won't really have an enjoyable vacation, will you? We're traveling through this world. Okay? We're just on a journey for a little while in this particular world. In fact, look at 1 Peter chapter 1 or 2, verses 11 and 12.
Beloved, I urge you as aliens and strangers to abstain from fleshly lusts which wage war against the soul. Keep your behavior excellent among the Gentiles, so that in a thing in which they slander you as evildoers, they may, because of your good deeds, as they observe them, glorify God in the day of visitation.
Okay, we're strangers, we're pilgrims, we're just passing through. How many of us actually enjoy our time here on earth? Okay. We're here for a temporary stay. And how many of it, I run across people all the time that just make their lives miserable. Okay. Now, yeah, we can't control circumstances. Somebody might be born in a bad situation, but do they make the best of it? We need to take time to enjoy the blessings God has given us. And one of the things I do to usually snap people out of depression and stuff like that, I get them to start listing out the nice things that haven't happened to them of late. Because they're so focused on the bad things, they forget about life is a mixture of good and bad things. In fact, take a look at Matthew 6, 31 to 33.
Do not worry about saying, what will we eat, or what will we drink, or what will we wear for clothing? For the Gentiles eagerly seek all these things, for your heavenly Father knows that you need all these things. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you.
Yeah, so basically it's saying if I put God first, that I don't need to worry about food and clothing and shelter and things like that. Not that I don't need to be concerned about it, work about it, look in, make sure I have it, but I don't have to worry about it because God is going to take care of me. Okay? I have no need to worry. I don't have any need to hurry through life. I can take time to enjoy the gifts God has given me. In fact, take a look at 1 Timothy chapter 6. And verses 7 through 8.
For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can carry nothing out.
Okay.
And having food and clothing, with these we shall be content.
Okay. I have food on my table. I have clothes on my back. Can I say I'm content? And that's actually a concept that's kind of tough for some people. I've done this lesson, and they said, "Well, you got to work at getting ahead and stuff like that." Yeah, go ahead and work at getting ahead, but not because you have to. Do it because you enjoy it. Do it because this is the next step to keep things interesting, whatever. But we ought not to get all wrapped up. And does that make sense? Comments on that?
You can spend so much time trying to get ahead, it shifts your focus.
Yeah.
From what it should be.
Yeah.
Isn't that the problem? Rich young ruler, he was more worried about things, earthly things and spiritual things.
Yeah.
It's our visit to earth, so our focus should not be on the stuff, it should be on the life.
Right. And whatever we have, we should enjoy it. Whether it's little, whether it's much, whatever, we should have enjoyment with what we have. Now, by enjoyment, I'm not saying we sin, but we should enjoy life as it comes. I just had somebody just ask me, well, was it just 2 days ago? How come you always have a smile on your face? And it's because I focus on the good things. Yeah, there are bad things out there, but I choose to focus on the good things. Okay. Now, let's go again in Ecclesiastes 9, this time to verse 8.
Let your clothes be white all the time, and let not oil be lacking on your head.
Now, you got to understand, this is written in the days before automatic washing machines. Okay? It was difficult to keep your clothes truly clean. Okay? They didn't have paved roads. When you walked, it stirred up dust. So, to have your clothes truly spotless was kind of difficult. And clothing itself in those days were really expensive. Most people, typically, the poor people had one set of clothes. Richer people might have two. You had your everyday clothes and your special occasion clothes, and that was your clothes. Okay? So most people basically wore the same thing day in and day out. Okay? But of course, for truly special occasions, you go out of your way to make sure everything that you had was very well cleaned and washed. Okay? And the other thing, the other side that most people don't understand in this statement is that perfumes back in those days were typically oil-based. We use musk or alcohol-based perfumes today. But most of them back then were oil-based, and typically what you did is you oiled your hair. The greasy kid look. But it had perfume in it. Okay, and that's how they scented themselves. Okay? But I gotta also understand the ingredients for perfume were extremely expensive. Okay, so again, you don't necessarily wear perfume every day, but for special occasions, you might not mind the little bit of extra expense to make yourself smell a little better. Okay? So with that in mind, what is he saying here in Ecclesiastes? When he says, let your clothes always be white and your head anointed with oil. Having your clothes white is a special occasion. Having perfume on is a special occasion. Let your clothes be white at all times.
Everything in your life is a special occasion.
Yeah, you ought to treat every day as something special. Okay? Something important.
There's blessings, so many blessings in each day that we can't count them.
Yeah.
When we think about it.
Yeah. And as Christians, we have something that we ought to be celebrating all the time. Take a look at 1 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 19 to 20.
For who is our hope or joy or crown of exaltation? Is it not even you in the presence of our Lord Jesus at his coming? For you are our glory and joy.
What did Paul find joyful? What did he get excited about?
The Thessalonians.
Why?
It's what they're doing, it's love for his brother, and it's the whole, for each other.
Yeah, love for brethren.
It's like his child, they're his children, right?
Yeah. And he gets joyful. Hey, they're doing what's right. They're heading to heaven. I can't think of anything better. And he says, and you got to remember, Paul had a rough life. But he found joy in the fact that, hey, people are heading towards heaven. I had a little hand in that. And that makes me glad. Okay? Now, think about the other way around. What does it tell you about a person when they have dirty clothes, unwashed bodies, unkempt hair?
It's on their circumstance.
Yeah.
Everything. But sometimes they're in need, sometimes they're not. Sometimes
Okay.
they choose to live that way.
Yeah, sometimes they choose that way. Sometimes it's because of depression or whatever. Basically, they're saying, I don't care about life. All right? And when you tell somebody by your behavior, I don't care about yourself, then you're also telling them, I don't care about other people too, usually. Okay? And how tragic it is to fail to find joy in life because you're looking for something more instead of celebrating what you have. And oftentimes that's what happens with people. They're looking at their life, they're depressed because I don't have X. Okay, you don't have X. Why not have fun with what you do have? Why not enjoy that? I don't have a Thunderbird. Don't want a Thunderbird. I don't have. Does that make me depressed? No. Okay. Does that mean I, can't take a shower in the morning because I don't have a Thunderbird? No. But you see people that get wrapped up that way. I'm not as rich. I'm not as talented as somebody else. I can't do what somebody else does, and they get all wrapped up and depressed and closed in on themselves. Do what you can. Make each day special. Yeah.
I came across this saying one time that really resonates. It's not happy people who are thankful, it's thankful people who are happy.
Yeah. And that's a good point.
When you get to that point too, you're focusing so much on yourself, you're not focusing on what we should be, God or other people,
Mm-hmm.
serving. You're just feeling sorry for yourself.
Yep. Okay, so verse 9 in Ecclesiastes 9.
Enjoy life with the woman whom you love all the days of your fleeting life, which he has given you under the sun. For this is your reward in life and in your toil in which you have labored under the sun.
Okay. Now, back in the beginning, God created man. And then he stated that it wasn't good for what? For man to be alone. In fact, let's go ahead and read Genesis 2, verse 18.
said, "It is not good for the man to be alone. I will make him a helper suitable for him."
Okay. In other words, our mates are gifts from God with whom we have someone then to share the joys of life. It's not good to be alone. In fact, I've noticed over the years that most young men, they kind of talk about marriage up until they get, they talk about it, but it's not real serious until they move out of the house and they're sitting in an apartment all by themselves and they're saying, going, I need a wife. that suddenly their motivation increases because it's not good to be by yourself. And our mates are gifts from God, someone to enjoy life with. In fact, take a look at Proverbs 18 and verse 22.
He who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord.
Yeah, when you do find a wife, you have gotten a gift from God. Okay? And it's amazing, even though we get to select our spouse, at least in this country. Some countries, somebody else picks, but actually you do still get a say in the matter. But we select our spouses, and it's amazing how many people believe that they're miserable because of the person they chose.
Maybe they didn't pray about it.
Yeah. Marriage is your reward, not your punishment. Okay? And we make ourselves miserable because we think it would have been better if, and then you start listing other, if I married somebody else, if I just, took more time about it. All sorts of excuses instead of saying, this is the person I chose, they're my companion, I'm going to have joy in my time with them. Okay? Again, this is something I can choose to do. Now, is every person that, the most wonderful person all the time? No. Hey, I got along with my brothers and sister. I didn't choose them. We still get along. Got a little more distance between us, but we still get along. But we can work things out. We can have fun in life. Okay, and now in verse 10 of Ecclesiastes 9.
Whatever your hands find to do, do with your might, because there is no work, nor device, nor knowledge, nor wisdom, nor skill where you go.
Okay. Whatever your hands find to do, what are we supposed to do? What does it mean to do with all your might?
Give it everything you got.
Yeah. If you got a task to do, put yourself into it. Okay? But think about it. From the days that we start school, we dread having to go. Okay? No, not that there's other things that we really have to do, but at least not anything particularly important, but it's just different from what we're required to do. And then we carry that attitude into the workplace. We tease about it all the time. You hear it all the time. Oh, it's Monday. I got to go back to work. Okay? And, life's too short to be miserable. Even while you're learning a living. You need to take pleasure in what you're doing. And even if you got a boring routine job, find something about it that you enjoy. Okay? In fact, take a look at Colossians chapter 3, 22 to 24.
Slaves, in all things obey those who are your masters on earth, not with external service as those who merely please men, but with sincerity of heart, fearing the Lord. Whatever you do, do your work heartily, as for the Lord rather than for men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the reward of the inheritance. It is the Lord Christ who you serve.
Now, who's this addressed to? Slaves. How many slaves get to choose who they work for? How many slaves get to choose what tasks they get to work on? Okay, and so yet God is urging through Paul that they do what? To work heartily as unto the Lord. Put your might into it. Do it well, as if you're working for God. Now, if somebody who has no choice in boss, no choice in what they get to do, because they're just told this is what you will do, if they have to basically do it heartily, I get to choose my job. How should I approach it? I should have an easier time doing it. I should. Okay. And if we live long enough, there's going to come a day when we would like to do some work, but our bodies aren't going to let us do much. There's already getting to the point. When Gay and I were first married, we built our first house, literally, from the ground up. There's times that I'd look at it and say, hey, I need to fix this. I can't, my back won't let me. I can't bend anymore like I used to. I went out just last April and Tony wanted to cut down some dead limbs out of the trees. And he had this pull chain thing. Cut down limbs, I'm still suffering from it. My arm is still, literally still sore. I pulled a muscle. And where when I was younger, yeah, you pull a muscle and it heals after a little bit. It's been months. That was back in April. I'm still sore. But, there's going to be times when you want to do things you can't. While you can, but do it. To the best of your ability. We need to take advantage of the opportunities when we're able to. In fact, take a look at Ephesians 5, verses 15 and 16.
Therefore, be careful how you walk, not as unwise men, but as wise, making the most of your time, because the days are evil.
Okay, we need to make the most of our time. Now, not just in physical labor, the jobs that we do, things like that, but also the opportunities to teach people. How many times do we pass over, talking to somebody or just even mentioning the Lord because we're too busy or we don't want to take the time? We need to do that work heartily too. Take advantage of opportunities as they are presented to you, because, and we should be eager to give our all. In fact, take a look at 1 Corinthians 9. 1 Corinthians 9, 24 to 27.
Do you not know that those who run in a race all run, but only one receives the prize? Run in such a way that you may win. Everyone who competes in the games exercises self-control in all things. They then do it to receive a perishable wreath, but we an imperishable. Therefore I run in such a way as not without aim. I box in such a way as not beating the air, but I discipline my body and make it my slave, so that after I have preached to others, I myself will not be disqualified.
Okay, what's the illustration about? Okay, he's using sports as an illustration, and he's using two different sports here. What are they?
Boxing and running.
Boxing and running. And he says, now when a person is involved in a sport, when a person runs a race, how do they approach it? They run to win. They give it their all. Okay. I remember talking, or not talking, but hearing a lecture from a Olympic swimmer who didn't get first. She got second. And but she was basically still proud of what she did. She said, because she approached it with that, she said, I approached it such that I know I gave it my absolute all. I couldn't have gone one fingernail faster than I did. That was my max. So I'm not ashamed that I got second. Yeah, somebody was faster than I was. But it wasn't because I could have done anything more. That was all I had. And she had a good attitude about it. And that's really what we should approach life with. Saying, I gave it my best. I did all, and all of us make mistakes, and all of us, look back and say, well, if I just changed this, and maybe I would have been a little bit better. But typically, as you approach life, you do the best you can at the moment that you know how. And so you don't have regrets to look back. And, Gay and I have been talking about, now that we're old and looking back at our, raising the kids. Yeah, there's some things that we would probably change now that we're older, looking back. But you know what? We both brought up, back then, that was the best we knew. And I can't be ashamed of what I did. I did the best I knew how. And so we take advantage of opportunities when we have opportunities to teach. I should approach it as I do the best I can. Is everybody going to be the absolute best at teaching somebody the gospel? The answer is no. But can I give all that I have? I had somebody saying, well, I just don't know enough. Hey, you knew enough to get baptized. You knew enough to believe in Christ. You can at least share that. I had one of the men is a deacon at our in La Vista. He became a Christian because one of the members there said, you look like you're having a bad day. Is something wrong? And when he started telling him what's wrong, he said, you know what? I know somebody who's really good at helping people solve problems. Why don't you go talk to Jeff? Here's his number. 6 months later, he ran across it. You're still looking bad. Did you talk to Jeff? Oh, you did? But, I forgot about that. And it kind of slipped my mind. Yeah, I need to go back and talk. And then he started talking, and we talked for a year and a half, and he became a Christian. Now he's one of our deacons. But, did it cost the guy who talked to him all that much? He just was being sympathetic. He saw somebody. Did he have all the answers? No, he readily admitted, I didn't have all the answers. But he knew somebody did have more answers than he did. Okay. And we give it our all. And, so yes, sometimes when we give our all, we don't always say, everybody I baptize has not remained faithful. Not because I haven't tried. I give it as all I can. There have been times when I've literally been in tears because I lost somebody. But you give it your all so that you can enjoy what you have. In fact, also in Ecclesiastes chapter 12, this time, and in verse 1.
Remember also your Creator in the days of your youth, before the evil days come and the years draw near, when you will say, I have no delight in them.
Yeah. Don't delay. Don't put things off. One of the regrets that I have that still haunt me from all these years later, when I was in college, first year in college, first semester, was talking to a guy at college, and we actually got onto religion, and he sounded really interested, and I said, you know what? let's sit down and study Bible. It was right before final exams. So I said, you know what, when we get back next quarter, we'll start studying. I never went back to the school. The things changed, and I ended up never going back to that school. And I've regretted ever since. I should have just said, hey, let's go ahead and study regardless of the fact that we're having final exams. Take advantage of the time, because you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. If you got an opportunity today, you take advantage of that. But you do that with all of life and everything you have. Do things while you have the time. You know, this idea of putting things off typically doesn't always work out well, because something's going to come up. But all the way through that, what it comes basically is, what do you have in control? I can't control life. I can't control circumstances, but I can control my attitude. Now, you can choose to be miserable, or you can choose to accept life as it comes. Okay? And you can choose to enjoy it. Events are going to happen to us. Things that are completely out of our control. Some of them are going to be really miserable. Okay? I can think of a lot of things that happened over our lives that are totally out of my control, that were not fun to go through. Okay? But I still understand those were growing periods. Those were things for me to learn. Okay? But I can control my attitude towards them. Yeah. That's what we can control. Any other comments on that? We went through that far faster than I was planning.
Job's a really good example of that, right? He went through so many things, and what made Job upright and faithful to God was the way he responded to the things that he was put through. And
Yeah.
so,
And he was miserable while I was during those times, yes. Yeah. Those weeks and months after the disaster, he was miserable. But he got through it.
Isn't there a saying, your attitude controls your altitude?
Yeah.
It's looking for the best even in bad situations.
Mhm.
You know, I can remember talking to my son, he's very, he was down and he was discouraged about a lot of things, and I says, there's two ways of looking at things. Things can be stumbling blocks or stepping stones. It's up to you to choose. I said, and we talked for a while, and later he says he's really glad that he talked, because he says, I changed the way I looked at things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot of it.
I should have brought it. I have a poem that's on my board in my office. And I can't recite it, but it's about a deacon named Ezra DeBell. It was the guy's name, and one of them was mentioning he lost a foot in a farming accident, and so he had a peg leg, but he said, "Look at that, socks cost me half as much." You can find something that you'd be joyful about. There are things that you can enjoy, find something to enjoy.
My mom used to always say, if we were running around with a frown or something, she says, your day's going to go the same way as the corners of your mouth.
Yeah.
I mean, you feel happy, you're going to go into it with a better attitude.
Yeah.
If you're running around sad and looking down,
And there's going to be sad times,
well,
but
there
yeah.
is, but.
Yeah, the overall, yes.
Well, just building on what Karen said, Miss Leela, her mom, the way that I remember her was joyful.
Mhm.
She was all happy, and what a great on me because she was happy. I mean, she was real, but she was happy. We could talk to her, you could relate to her. She always looked at the positive.
Yeah.
And now, you know, she's not here, and what a legacy she's left for us of how we should be to others. These people pick up on that.
Yeah. And when I started work at IBM years ago, as a teenager, the guy I worked with, his nickname was Yosemite Sam. He was like that. He was grouchy, he miserable, all that. And here I am, I'm just this bubbly teenager. And everybody kept saying, how did you two get to work together? But, you know, over time, he eased up. I didn't let him affect me. I ended up infecting him. But it's how you approach things. Yeah, some things are difficult, some things are hard, but yeah, enjoy it. All right, well, I'm going to stop there.